Today, I want to talk about feeling rejection. Not the act of not being accepted for a position or someone ghosting you for whatever reason, but I'm talking about an immense feeling of being unwanted and unloved. Sometimes these feelings can be called irrational with no real basis in reality when described by the people you say reject you. Sometimes this rejection creates surges of anger and aggression towards others or yourself. This type of rejection can also piggyback on physical pain pathways in your brain. Study shows that emotional pain can manifest as physical pain in your body. In fact, most people can relive and re-experience social pain more vividly than physical pain. For example, I was talking to my wife about the labor that she went through with our twins. And while she went through hours of labor and she can recall the experience, and she really knows that it was painful at times, that, it was difficult to breathe at times. It was a lot going on through that time, but she doesn't really vividly remember how painful it was. She knows that it was painful, but she can't really recall exactly how painful it was. I think that's a good thing because if women could recall how painful it actually was during labor, they may not think of it the same way when they think of having more children. But on the other hand, when it comes to an emotional pain, that emotional pain for some plays over and over in their heads. And each time they think about it, it triggers a response and it triggers a hurt. And being that you play it over so much, sometimes it can feel as painful recalling the situation as it did when it actually happened to you. So now let's take a look at the conventional way to see and respond to rejection. One effective way to manage rejection and emotional wounds is to face each of the wounds head on. You see, facing the reality of the facts versus the perception you took away from the event is a good starting point to truly process your rejection and move forward in a powerful way. When you don't face each individual wound, especially the tough ones, the event may stay concealed, and while it stays concealed, the manifestation of it will still be visible. I'm talking about that anger, that hurt, that guilt, the shame, the sadness that you feel based off of the rejection. Now, when it comes to processing this hurt and this rejection, I think it would be a great idea to seek some professional help to guide you through that process. Okay, we talked about the conventional way to see and respond to rejection. Now it's important to see it from a spiritual point of view. So here's a few symptoms of the manifestation of the spirits associated with rejection: hurt feelings, loneliness, jealousy, shame, social anxiety, embarrassment, sadness, and anger. These are a few ways that you can see this spirit being manifested through your life. Now let's talk about some outwardly expressions or responses to rejection. The first one is an aggressive response. Now, with this aggressive response, you may see this as people that need to control everything and to control people. Now, the troubling part about this, and when I really look at it, and when I hear situations and I hear this in that conversation where someone wants to be controlling of other people, that is when I take a closer look to see if it really is a spirit or if it's just behavior. But most of the time, when you see that there's a person that likes to control other people, this is usually a spiritual issue. Okay. Someone that likes to fight everything or they're very oppositional, that's usually a sign. And one of the extreme responses is self injury. Okay. So let's move on to the second response. The second response is more of a passive response, right? So this usually comes from someone being fearful and having a sense of self rejection. And some of the fruit from that spirit or response from that spirit is self destructive or risky behavior, or someone that believes that there's nothing they can do about their situation and they allow others to run over them. I see this a lot in relationships where on one level, It may be a husband saying, "Okay, happy wife, happy life." Whatever their spouse does or says, they take the passive approach to it, and they're very accommodating, and they do everything in their power to make sure that the other person is happy, putting their feelings aside, okay? And although they may say happy wife, happy life, the reality is this person isn't happy, nor is the wife that they're trying to make happy by being taking a passive approach. They're not happy as well. So this doesn't work. And you need to understand that this approach isn't working. Right. So I'm just going to dive a little bit deeper into that. All right. So when it is a spiritual issue that's going on here with the rejection, I want you to understand that spirits feed on other spirits. This is when two hurt people connect, and one has an appetite to control and the other has an appetite to be controlled. Now, I know some of you said nobody really wants to be controlled. Well, the person may not want to be controlled, but we're coming from a spiritual standpoint. And this spirit within the person feeds on the other spirit, which one wants to control, and the other actually grows stronger when it's being controlled. Some people may call this a soul tie, but really what it is truly spirits feeding off of each other. In some cases, it may not be two people that are hurt connecting. It could be one person that's hurt connecting with another person that started the relationship, feeling secure and fearless and, feeling really good about themselves. And they connect with somebody that has grown up or experienced rejection in their lives, and they do have this spirit of rejection in them. But by you dealing with this person and being passive towards this person and wanting to please this person and being in a relationship with this person over time, that fear and that rejection has a gateway into you by the pain and the hurt and the insecurities that you gain through being in a relationship with someone that you're trying to do everything you can to please them, and you're trying to make the relationship work. And every attempt that you make towards making the relationship work and to show this person how much you truly love them and that you respect them and you value them, but it's not received to that person. Now, this is when that person is experiencing that irrational, immense feeling of being unwanted and unloved. And there's no real basis in reality for them to feel that way based off of the way that they're really actually being treated and valued, loved, and respected, but it's not received. When you're the one trying to give that love and respect to the person, sometimes it causes you to actually feel that sense of rejection, and you have the spirit right there feeding you thoughts and wicked imaginations to make the situation worse. When there is a spirit of rejection present in a relationship like this, understand that both people grow weaker in their relationship as the wounded spirit within them grows stronger. Okay, now let's talk about the third response. The third response is a protection response. This is when people are in denial or they try to cover up. This is when they create fallacies and they say that they're guarding their heart to protect themselves. In their attempt to guard their heart, really what they're doing is pushing people away. This is when they're not believing the truth or the reality of the situation, and they're making this situation mean to them in the present what something may have meant to them in the past from a previous relationship or a previous incident. And it causes them to continue to push people away or not connect to them as strongly as they could, or at least in a positive way. Next, they develop a superficial happiness, hurting inside but pretending to be the nice guy. See, this is when you know that you're going through some very difficult times, whether it's a relationship or whatever it may be, where you're experiencing the spirit of rejection. But you try to put all of that to the side and go into your workplace, and you're kind to everyone, you're nice to everyone. You give it your all, your best attempt to be as normal as possible. Now, I'll go ahead and tell you that most times the people around you notice that things aren't right. They noticing that you really are different, that you're trying hard, but they really see the pain inside, especially if it's people that's been around you for a long period of time. The only person that you're fooling in this situation really is yourself, because I can tell you that the people around you, they have noticed what's been going on. They have noticed the shift and the change and the difficult times that you've been having, you know. But you pour all this energy into trying to be the nice guy or the nice person at work. But then when you walk back into your home, you spent all the energy that you had spending throughout the day. Now there's no more happiness, there's no more energy, there's no more positive energy left in you to give when you walk through that door, but you're still expecting or hoping that someone there to receive you. The reality of the situation is that you're not bringing your best self through that door because of what you've been through throughout the course of your day. So that's why I say to you, you be the one bringing that happiness and that positive energy into your home. Most of us want happiness when we walk through the door, but I'm saying to you, you have to be that happiness when you walk through that door. Okay. Also, people that are experiencing this protection response, they may buy a bunch of things that don't really bring anyone happiness. It doesn't matter how nice your car is. It doesn't matter how fancy your clothes are. If you are experiencing the spirit of rejection, then you're still going to feel that way regardless of what toys you buy, what things you buy to cover up what you're really feeling inside. Okay, so this protection response is one way people respond when they're experiencing the spirit of rejection, right? So now let's look at the root and some of the fruit of the spirit. You have self rejection caused by your attitude towards life or relationship. This is when those things that could be present most of the time from your past play into your present way of seeing yourself. Then you have challenges you faced in your home or your family. This could be recent challenges, but more than likely the root of it comes from challenges that you had from your childhood or early teens or most of the time before your current relationship. Not bonding with your parents or siblings and even being adopted. These are some things that are usually at the root of rejection. Sometimes you could have a great relationship with your parents, or you grew up in the same home with your parent and your siblings. However, you could have been the one in your family dynamic that people seen as the golden child, and you felt a sense of rejection from others around you because you felt like they seen you differently. Or you could have seen yourself as the black sheep of the family. And also, this is a very big one that most people don't understand or they don't think of, is that the rejection that you're experiencing actually could have stemmed from being in your mother's womb. Because whatever spirits or emotions a mom deal with while she's carrying a child, these things could have an effect on the child as well. We understand that from a physical sense. We also can understand that a little bit more when it comes to an emotional standpoint as well. Like if you're experiencing a certain amount of stress, then physically that can carry on into the child, not only during pregnancy, but lead to some complications that extend into the child's life. Well, I'm here to tell you spiritually, it can work the same way. Whatever the mom is carrying does affect and could potentially affect the child for the rest of their lives unless you deal with this as a spiritual issue. All right. Also, sexual abuse, family or social status as well. This could be a racial issue. It could be a financial issue. It could be something like alcoholism or incest within a family. I was thinking when I was a teenager, there was a family down the street from me growing up where there was a father that was addicted to crack, and he was in his 50s, I would say at the time. There was a son in that same household that was addicted to crack, and he was in his, I would say, late 20s, maybe early 30s. And there was also a nephew that lived in that same home that was in his early 20s that was addicted to crack as well. So sometimes this could be part of, it could be a spiritual nature thing that stems from a family or bloodline. I know that from a scientific standpoint, people would say, okay, well, in certain DNA, certain heredity, they're more prone to certain things. Well, I'm also going to say from a spiritual standpoint, scripture tells us that transgressions revisits a family from generation to generation. And also these spirits understand what goes on inside of certain households and what goes on in certain bloodlines, and the things that made one generation weak or fall for certain devices of the adversary, the next generation is probably likely to do the same thing as well. So we have to understand things from a spiritual nature if we want to truly overcome them, okay? Also, it could be physical issues that a person could have from childhood or recently occurred or whatever it may be. But a physical issue could be at the root of your rejection. The bottom line to all of this is that the adversary will use anything you allow him to use that will cause you to feel less than what God created you to be, do, have, and how you influence the world around you. So now I want to offer to you both practical ways to manage rejection or spiritual ways to overcome rejection. So let's start with some practical ways to manage rejection. First, acknowledge your feelings. It's important to acknowledge what it is that you're truly feeling, okay? It's not going to provide a pathway to change if you're not willing to admit what the problem or the issue really is, okay? Next, you have to have self affirmations and gratitude. This is when you look at the accomplishments that you've achieved in your life. This is when you big yourself up, even if no one else currently is doing that for you, okay? This is when you are truly grateful for all the things that you do have and all maybe all the people that you do have in your life, and you don't focus on what you don't have, all right? So you have to have those self affirmations and gratitude. The third thing on this list is you have to practice self compassion. All right. So when I say practice self compassion, this is when you look at things and you say, okay, maybe in my past I haven't been the best version of myself. Maybe there's some things in my past that were really, really horrible things. You know, maybe I was a really horrible person at one point in life, but that's not who I am today. And it doesn't matter if you changed that about yourself years ago or whether you're just deciding today to be a different person. But you can forgive yourself for the things that you've done in your past. And just because that's who you was doesn't mean that's who you are. Okay. And just because you had some behaviors in life that weren't the best behaviors, that doesn't mean that you were a bad person, even though you did some bad things at certain times. Okay. I hear some people saying that you are an accumulation of your actions. Well, I don't necessarily think that's true. There's a lot of people that do good things, but that doesn't necessarily make them a good person, right? There's some people that have done some bad things in life, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're a bad person today or mean that they ever were a bad person. They made some bad decisions for sure. They had some actions that were bad, and maybe hopefully they held themselves accountable to those actions and changed their actions. But today we're going to just really practice how to have compassion for yourself, no matter what your starting point was, but knowing that you can forgive yourself and that you can rise above whatever it is that you were going through, okay? And also in that process, still on number three, along with practicing self compassion, is acknowledging your true identity, okay? This is when you acknowledge how powerful you really are. This is when you really just close your eyes and you just see the possibilities of what you can accomplish in your life, right? At your best, who are you? All right. This is when you do that. when you discover your true identity, maybe for the first time, when you just think about at your best, what do you have the potential to be? And when you think of that, I want you to bring it back to the present. Not only will you be that one day, you already have all of that goodness inside of you right now. So therefore, you are those things now. They may not be manifested in your life. You may not have made them visible in your day-to-day life yet, but that is who you are. That's what you have the potential to be. So therefore, that is who you are. Okay. So you have to acknowledge your true identity. All right. So the fourth step I would do in managing rejection is to indulge in your activities that you love. For me, that could be something like going fishing or taking a walk. And at this point, I really do enjoy working out, taking a ride in the country. I'm out here in California now. I've been out here for a few years. And the thing is, I just love taking a ride. And at times I can see the beach and I can see the mountains all at the same time. Being from the East Coast, being from North Carolina, you either had one or the other. You had the beach or you had about 4 hours away, you can be in the mountains. But here, I can be riding and I can see the mountains and I can see the beach and I'm in the end of May or the beginning of June and I'm riding down the street from my house and I can see the snow-capped mountains while it's 90 to 100 degrees. This is amazing for me. This is something that I love. So just take in the little things that you love and just do the little things that you love, whatever those things may be. Okay. The fifth step would be spend time with your loved ones. Okay. For all of us, there's someone that loves you. I would say that there's many people that truly do love you while you're feeling that spirit of rejection. And I know there's all types of things that's telling you that there's no one that truly loves you. I know that there's things that's telling you that they don't want to be around you or maybe you're not good enough or maybe you're in that stage where you're guarding your heart and you just don't want to reach out to people. I'm urging you whether you want to have a in-depth conversation with the people or you just want to be in their presence. I'm asking you to spend time with those that you love, right? My mom has passed away, but I remember there was times in my life when I was going through some really challenging things from time to time and I could just pick up the phone and call my mom. You know, I didn't have to say what was going on in my life. I didn't have to talk about any of those things, but there was something about being on the phone with her that she may not have known exactly what was going on, but she knew what I needed in that time. And she was able to give me that without even having a conversation or really knowing what was going on. And I believe that there's people in your life, whether it's, somebody that you may go on a walk with or go work out with or go shopping with or whatever it is, where you don't even necessarily have to say what's going on in your life. Just spending time with them and feeling their love and feeling their presence is something that can help you manage the feeling of rejection. There's someone out there that will want to do that for each of you. All right. The next and last thing on this list of managing rejection is talk about how you're feeling. All right. So it could be to someone that you love, someone that you trust, definitely someone that you feel vulnerable enough to tell the truth to. Now, that's a big thing. Whoever it is you decided to talk to or talk with, be honest with them. I know it's a hard thing to feel vulnerable enough to tell the truth. And I know that's part of guarding your heart as well. But there's someone out there, and if there's no one in your immediate circle that you feel that way about, then maybe you can get some professional help, right? So I'm going to say to you, with that professional help, be vulnerable with them, all right? They're professionals. They don't know you personally. Sometimes that can help when someone doesn't know you personally, all right? So I know there'll be something within saying, I'm not going to tell a stranger all my business and this, that, and another, but that person doesn't know you, okay? Hopefully they're in the profession that they are because they genuinely like to help people, that they're doing what they're called and purposed to do. and they're going to serve you to the best of their ability regardless. And there's nothing that you're going to say to them that they probably haven't heard before, or anything that you would say to them that will cause them to look at you in a negative way. All right? So if you need professional help and there's no one in your circle that you would want to talk to about things, then get that, all right? I like to give you practical steps that you can start today, you know, without having to set an appointment and talk to someone. So sometimes the talking to someone could really be just you writing it down, all right? It could be you writing down what it is that you're feeling. It could be you just recording yourself saying how you feel at this moment. But either way, you need to talk about what it is that you're feeling, okay? So, in the first step was acknowledging what you're feeling. And now brings us to the last step in this process, which is talking about what you're feeling. All right. So there's really two different things. What you're acknowledging in the beginning could just be something that you're bringing to your attention. But this step, the thing that you brought to your attention, you want to actually express yourself. Okay. All right. So now that we talked about some of the practical ways to manage rejection, I also want to talk to you about ways to overcome spiritual rejection. And the first step to overcoming spiritual rejection is to understand that the feeling of rejection is a spirit. Okay. So when you're having those unexplained urges of hurt, loneliness, jealousy, guilt, shame, embarrassment, sadness, or anger, understand that this is a spiritual nature and manifestation. Next, get clear on what or who wounded you, right? So this is when you really acknowledge this is what happened in my life. I can clearly see that this person wounded me in this way, okay? But in that process, I want you to say exactly what it is that they did to you, okay? Exactly what they said, exactly what they did that caused you emotional pain. This is where you really separate how it made you feel versus what exactly happened, okay? So there's a fact of what happened that can't be changed, and then there's a perception of what happened that you took away from the actual facts of the situation, okay? So this is something that you have to get clear on, and that's important because it's a lot more difficult to forgive someone or process something that someone did when it's based on your takeaway from the situation versus forgiving them for exactly what it is that they did, okay? And also in this process of step number two, you want to forgive them for doing it, and you want to forgive yourself. And I'm going to take it even to one step farther. And I know this is going to rub some of you in a certain way, but even forgive God. You see, something that became clear to me when someone is experiencing the spirit of rejection, what you're really doing is you're rejecting God. You're rejecting the identity that you have through God. You're rejecting his salvation. You're rejecting his love. You're rejecting the purpose that he put in you when you're feeling the sense of rejection. Okay. So part of that process may be you acknowledging where it was that you feel like God wasn't there for you, or something that caused you not to accept his love and his kindness and the true identity that you have through him, the peace that he offers. You're rejecting that. What comes to mind to me when Saul was on the road and he was knocked down and he was blinded and he heard a voice saying, Saul, why do you persecute me? Now, at this time, Jesus was no longer on earth. He wasn't with us. So Saul wasn't physically persecuting him, but he was persecuting others in his name. And this reminds me of this rejection that you're feeling. Although it may be other people that you're rejecting, including yourself, but really you're rejecting the nature of God and His love and His peace and His joy. I hope that makes sense to you. And I want you to really dive deep into that and see where this may be the case in your life, okay? Because I know that a lot of people that I work with, when we do delve a little bit deeper into what's really going on, these are people that at some point they had a relationship with God and they can clearly see where the relationship that they had with God isn't there anymore. And sometimes these are people that were pastor kids and, really, really deep into their religion and into their culture. And at this point, they're rejecting that religion. They're rejecting maybe something that happened within the church. Maybe it's their parents that were one way in the religious center, but they were another way at home. And that caused them to feel that sense of rejection. Well, that's at the root of that rejection. But ultimately, it all rolls back down to you rejecting the love of God, okay? So get clear on that. Forgive others, forgive yourself, and it may even be possible that you need to forgive God in this process. All right? Step number 3. This is when you reframe what you made it mean, okay? So even if the facts line up to it being something that was very difficult, something that you'll never forget happened in your life, there's a perception or something that you made it mean that has caused you to feel rejection in your life. And what I'm saying to you here is that although that was a very horrible thing that happened in your life, and I wish it wouldn't have happened to you, that there's always more than one way to see a situation. Okay. So I believe in polarity. There was something bad that came out of the situation, but there also can be something good to take away from it. Right. So now what's been bad is that it's caused you to feel this rejection. It's caused relationships to be difficult in your life. It has wounded you and hindered you from doing certain things in your life in the past. But now I believe there's a way for you to take and turn that energy around. Now that you can acknowledge what has happened, and now that you understand the way that the adversary is using this against you, and you can say, I'm not going to allow this to happen anymore in my life. And you can also say that I may have made it mean that I'm not good enough or I'll never be good enough. Now you can reframe that and say, okay, I know that I am the righteousness of God. I know that I am his beloved. I know that he cares for me. I know that I am more than a conqueror. Whatever you need to make this mean for you to move forward in a more peaceful, powerful, and purposeful way, then that's what you embrace going forward. I know this can be a difficult step, but it's an absolute necessary step for you to take to truly overcome this from a spiritual perspective. Next, step number 4, rebuke the spirit of rejection or the spirits associated with the symptoms you are experiencing. So you've acknowledged what it is that you're dealing with. You're no longer going to let this produce fruit in your life. You're going to rebuke this. And when I say rebuke this, there are certain things that you can say here. But ultimately, what you're saying is that I acknowledge that you're there. I'm no longer allowing you to have control over my life in any type of way. I'm submitting to God. I'm resisting you. And according to scripture, this thing must flee. Okay? This shouldn't sound spooky to you. It shouldn't sound very difficult to do. At the moment, you may not know exactly how to do this, but right now it's really about a decision for you to say that I'm no longer going to allow this to affect my life. I'm no longer going to allow these things to manifest in my life and me respond to them the way that I have in the past. So it's about starting that process of transforming your life and having an emotional and spiritual reset. And step number 5 of overcoming this spiritual rejection is asking God to fill you with peace, joy, love, life, abundance. Find at least one Bible verse to support everything that you're asking for. And when you find this verse, Believe it. Believe that you will be this. Believe that God placed this in you. Believe that his word is true and it'll never lie. Believe that you're free. Believe that you deserve this. Know that there's nothing that's going to stop you from having it. You know, usually I don't delve this deep into spiritual nature things while I'm doing talks on YouTube. But I know that someone is listening to this and you're dealing with a spirit of rejection. And now you understand that you should respond to a spiritual nature issue with a spiritual nature solution. Also, I want you to know that there's plenty of resources out there to help you through this process. There are some spiritual cleansing specialists. There's pastors and ministers out there that would be happy to serve you in this process. And if you would like for me to be one of those resources and personally walk with you through your challenging times, I'll leave my contact information in the description and I'll happily walk with you through this process. Before we go, I want to give you one major key. Whether you decide to manage rejection or whether you decide to overcome it. A key to rising above rejection and any other challenge in your life is all about personal identity and what you base that personal identity upon. If you want to win, solve your personal identity issues. My question to you, and when you ask yourself this question, I want you to go and stand in front of the mirror. I want you to look yourself in the eyes and ask yourself this question. Who am I? And when you ask yourself this question, I want you to think deeply. I want you to ask yourself, at my best, what do I believe God purposed me to do? I want you to see yourself being and doing those things in your life at your best. Still looking yourself in the eyes, I want you to bring that from a future tense to a present tense. Because anything that you're purposed to do, anything that you can do at your best, you have that within you right now. That's who you are, even at this moment. So I want you to look yourself in the eyes and I want you to say whatever it is that you're imagining yourself to be. Okay? This will answer the question as to who you are. This will help you in addressing that issue of identity that must be tackled first. I believe in all of you. I hope that this recording will not only help you, but I hope that it will be life changing for some of you. This is Tori Bryant, the Transformation Simplificator, simplifying the way that you see and respond to complicated times. Talk with you soon.